You know you need systems, and you know you don't have another hour to spare. How the hell do I put all these systems in place? You need help. You need managers. But how many? Have you ever asked yourself that question? If you have, I'm going to help you with that right now. Hello, this is David Scott Peters with the restaurantexpert.com, and I feel your pain. I've been there where when I started into management, I was a supervisor, I was a bartender, made bar manager. What it really meant at that time was I was a highly paid bartender. And at the end of the night, I counted out the drawer and I did things, and as my career moved on, things changed. But I can also tell you that's not really a successful way to do things. To have a line employee manage a shift while they're being a line employee. What the hell was I supposed to do when I had 5 people deep at the bar and there was a challenge in the kitchen? Or there was a customer who needed to talk to a manager? Not ideal. So I want to make sure I have enough people. Understanding that I have the money, right? The first step is to do a budget. How much money do I have is going to dictate how many managers I can have ultimately. But let's assume we have the money. Well, here's the first thing I want you to do. If I'm a lunch restaurant business and I'm open Monday through Sunday, that means that I a lunch manager and a dinner manager 7 days a week. And let's say Friday and Saturday nights we have our ass handed to us. We're so popular, so busy. I'm actually going to have an opening manager, a mid-shift manager, and a closing manager, which means an opening manager opens up the restaurant. When lunch rush starts, the second manager comes in. I've got 2 managers on the floor. My morning manager is actually going to work their way through happy hour to 4 o'clock. The nighttime manager is going to come in, or actually till 7 o'clock. The nighttime manager is coming in at 4. At one point in time, between 4 and 7 o'clock, I have 3 managers on the floor. One making sure the door's operating properly. One's in the kitchen expoing, make sure everything works. The other one's floating around, make sure the bar has booze, the customers are taken care of, everything's working properly. And as we phase off, the morning manager goes, the nighttime manager gets to 8, 9, 10 o'clock, phases off, and I've got a closer. I always have the manpower to make sure the guest gets the best experience possible and my employees have the tools they need to be successful. Well, in doing that, if you'll notice on this graph, you need 16 shifts covered. Ultimately, how I get there is another story. Well, let's look at some possibilities. In a perfect world, I'm going to have 3 full-time front of house managers. Front of house, that's not including my chef or kitchen manager and their supervisors, just front of house, 3 full-time managers, each working 5 shifts a week. Well, that's 15. Then I need an MIT, a supervisor, my next trained manager coming up, just supervisor, works 1 shift a week. Maybe instead of being a bartender that day or a server or a line cook or whatever it may be, they're in plain clothes as a manager on the floor. They're going to work my slowest shift of the week. We're developing them. They're teaching them opening, closing, side work, how to count out a drawer, and so on. They're a supervisor. Well, that's 16 shifts. I get all my shifts covered. Well, maybe if it were me, I might say I want more MITs. So I have 2 full-time managers, 5 shifts a week, and then I have 3 managers in training that work 2 days a week as a manager on the floor in plain clothes. By the way, they don't get paid a higher wage every shift. They only get paid a supervisor wage when they're supervising in plain clothes. When they're a line employee, they have that wage. Make sure we're clear on that. Well, if I've got 2 full-time people at 5 shifts a week, that's 10, and I've got 3 MITs working 2 shifts every single week in plain clothes, guess what? That's 16 shifts. But you might, when you look at the budget, say, I don't have all that money. I can't afford to do that yet, David. So how do I get to my 16 shifts? You might not. The only way you get to 16 shifts is you might have to work 7 days a week. But let's say your full-time manager, which is probably you, is going to work 5. With that said, I don't have the money. I can afford 2 MITs. Well, that's 9 shifts. How do we cheat it? I'm going to take some of my supervisors and I'm going to teach them how to open the restaurant. Punch in as a supervisor, open the restaurant. I'm going to come in as a mid, and when lunch rush starts, they punch out, become a line employee, and I'm the manager. And I work that mid shift. I get myself to say 10 o'clock at night, from 10 in the morning to 10 at night, a 12-hour day, because that's all I can afford. That's what I can do. Then I take my second bartender or another server, I have them punch out change into plain clothes, and they close the restaurant for me and I go home. Now what that allows me to do is take three hours in the morning, 3 hours at night. I work the mid, make sure the restaurant works properly, and I'm saving money and I'm training people. Well, if you add that up, that means my 5 shifts is actually worth 10. 10 plus my 2 MITs that work 2 shifts, that's 14. It means I don't have the triple coverage on Friday, Saturday night, but I have a manager on duty every single shift. This is how we figure it out. But again, budget is a part of that. Now, what are you doing? How many managers do you run with? Share with me whether they're full-time, part-time, and how you do that. I'd love to hear how you're doing it. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel where I give you videos like this on a weekly basis. But before you go, I want to tell you about a free report I want to give you, the 10 lessons I've learned that any independent restaurant owner or manager must know to have any chance of making money, get your life back, and have managers know what their job is. I want you to opt in for it right now on the link below. The systems I teach you in this report can be life-changing. I've seen it firsthand. Again, make sure you opt in, the link below, for my free report. And again, subscribe now, because in next week, I'm going to teach you how to run a manager meeting effectively.
Do you have manager meetings? And I'm not talking about passing in the hallway and having a quick conversation. Truly a sit-down meeting to make sure you move the company forward. If you're not, I'm going to tell you why it's so important and how you put one together.